Oh, that's real good.
Hey, Jorge.
Hey, Roxanne, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excited, and it's a little bittersweet. This is the last real week of the fantasy football season. It went by too fast.
It always does. You need a league like mine where we play through the playoffs and Super Bowl, actually.
That, you're not wrong. I do need a league at that.
It's fun. Like the top teams redraft
Okay.
for the playoffs, and then it's total points after Super Bowl. Then once a player goes out, you don't get any more.
Oh, how about that? So is that like a vampire league, or is that something similar to that, or no?
I don't know what a vampire league is.
Like when you say your player goes out, does that mean it goes back into like the waiver wire where you can pick players
No.
up?
Like say the team gets knocked out in the playoffs.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That's the points you get, and then you don't get any more. So you pick 2 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 4 wide receivers, tight end, kicker, and a defense. So it's pretty fun.
Okay, yeah,
it's different. But that's how I learned fantasy football. I didn't know the first few years when I was in the league with people I used to be in the league with. I didn't even know people stopped, before playoffs.
It's like, well, that's just like with me in IDP. I've always played in IDP leagues, and so my first league where it's like DST, I'm like, what's this? I don't know what this is. What is this mean? I still don't know what it means. It's oh my gosh.
That's funny. Yeah. So.
But yeah, no, it's definitely bittersweet. I think this is our last episode of the season too. So it's not having Joe and Nate. We wish them both. Hope they're feeling better. But you know what? We're here to send this show off and to send all these people off with some plays here to help them win a title. So I'm excited.
And how else should we do it besides an IDP after dark? It's time to get crazy, right?
That's right. You know it.
All righty. So our news, I saw this, the first one you have on here earlier, Derwin James. That's a big one.
That's a big one. Yeah. Aloy Gilman should be taking his spot. But, at this point, it's one of those things where you probably over the course of the season have on your bench plenty of backup options that are startable assets that you don't need to go and get Aloy Gilman into your roster. So, yeah. Just
big for the playoffs for people, like this week has been crazy for players. I'm just like, this is outrageous.
Yeah, no, it's.
I had Tony Pollard and Derrick Henry in my championship last night.
Oh man, God, it's this extra week. It's throwing everybody through a loop, and it's in the extra playoff teams that they're adding. It's messing with everybody.
I think so. That's what I thought too. I'm like, it's just got to be the extra week, just how everything's changed. We're not used to it yet. We'll get used to it, but it seems like there's a lot of quarterbacks out Sunday.
Yeah, no, seriously, it's
outrageous.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, moving on to more news. Kenny Moore out.
Yeah, he's been out the past few weeks, which may or may not tie into a player I'll be talking about a little bit later in the show. But yeah, he's the slot cornerback. One of the very rare the past few seasons, cornerbacks that could fit into a DB spot and produce for you in fantasy. Hasn't lived up to that this year, but him being out has opened the door for somebody who I said we'll talk about a little bit later.
Deshaun Elliott out.
Yeah, no, he's one of those players that ever since Tracy Walker went out for the Detroit Lions has stepped up, but he's out, and so you're kind of. I don't recall the name of the backup who came in last week. He played rather well, but I think week 17 you have again better options to pay attention to and not trust one-hit wonders at this point of the season.
Azeez Ojulari limited, but should be good to go.
Yeah, so him and Kayvon Thibodeau for the Giants have just been playing lights out, getting to the quarterback, getting those sacks. Ojulari, I believe, left during the game this past week with an ankle injury. He had been limited in practice, but he had been looking good in his limited participation. The head coach, Brian Daboll, is pretty confident that he should be good to go this week.
Big game this week. for them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Cameron Curl is questionable for Washington. That's a big game for them too, right?
Yeah, so he's really good at run stopping. When you look at his snaps, he plays primarily as like a de facto linebacker, just because their linebacking situation is just atrocious. With there's no nice way to put it. And in fact, John Bostic, who came on in relief of Cole Holcomb, I believe has also been placed on IR. So it's really Jamin Davis and whoever else would other insert body. David Mayo maybe comes in place. So, the defense has been hoping that Cameron Crowe would come back. He did not come back from an ankle injury last week. Jeremy Reeves kind of took some snaps there. But if Cameron Crowe doesn't come back, it's not looking good for the run stopping department here for Washington.
And real quick before we get into this, what bowl game did you go today?
I went with my buddy Ken to the Duke's Mayo Bowl in Charlotte. So it was. I'm not gonna lie, it was ugly. But Maryland, who we went down, were alums. They won, so we saw the head coach get doused in mayonnaise, and you saw during their commercial breaks, like they would pan to the crowd. People would have like jars of mayonnaise, and they'd be like guzzling it. I'm like, dude, no, I can't. No.
I don't like mayonnaise at all, anyway. So that was
yeah, it was not pretty. It was not pretty, but
the game was fun.
The game, if we had lost, I would have been a little bit more disappointed because it wasn't really that competitive. But I did not realize that Maryland was taking on NC State, who is ranked. I didn't realize they were the number 23 team in the country. So that was a pleasant surprise. And as long as your team wins, then hey,
And where are you? You say?
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah. So
how far is it? I mean, where do you live?
So I live just outside of DC. So it's about like a 5.5 hour drive just to come down for a couple nights and root on the team.
Not too bad.
No, it's not bad. Quick.
There's worse drives.
This is true. This is very true.
And if you're going to watch football in a bowl game,
I'll tell you the South. Well, I guess technically Virginia is the South also, right? But like the South, they really love their football down here. So
they do.
It's cool to be around such a passionate fan base.
Right. Different from the NFL too. Like it's not like us weirdos.
No, yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's go. Your last week linebacker we'll do first. Jamin Davis.
Yeah. So again, very high on him. He's been the staple in this linebacking core here for Washington. Like I mentioned, Cole Holcomb went out for the season. And this guy, he was drafted by Ron Rivera a few seasons ago in the first round of the NFL draft. And everybody was kind of thinking, Rivera has had such good luck with linebackers, and everyone remembers Luke Kuechly and the success he had, and he's not playing like Luke Kuechly. It's like, well, he never was meant to be Luke Kuechly. Luke Kuechly is his own person. Right. But with the opportunity this year, you've seen Jamin Davis just play lights out, great at run stopping. He, I believe, is in the top 20 amongst all linebackers in run stopping percentage, according to PFF. So he has been a staple there. The volume is there. Even if he's not a product. He's not just a product of volume. Okay, so he's super efficient tackling. He really has been turning it on. He's definitely somebody who I would definitely recommend also playing this week if I didn't have the current linebacker I've listed here.
And we have Greg Rousseau, who since week 14 has tallied 10 pressures, 2 sacks with a 14.8% win rate.
Yeah. So he when Von Miller was in the lineup before he hurt his knee, I believe it was like an ACL tear or an ACL meniscus tear. Rousseau and him were a great tandem. You saw Rousseau battling his own injuries. He came back a couple weeks ago versus the Jets in Buffalo and just went to town against Mike White and the offensive line. And you've seen he's been kind of returning to form. He's in the past, since week 14, he's tallied 10 pressures, making him the DL10 in that department. He's got 2 sacks, the DL15. And you just mentioned that his 14.8% win rate is the DL30. He is definitely a must start I think, week in and week out, which makes this even more high of an upside play. Is he's going to be taking on Lyle Collins' replacement for Cincinnati, Hakeem Adeniji, who, when I'm reading the news reports this week, the head coach, or the defensive coordinator rather, was saying, well, Adeniji is basically all we got left. And he wasn't saying like, oh, don't worry, we got Adeniji, we're cool. It's more like, yeah, we're screwed either way. There's nothing else we could do at this point of the season. So I think Rousseau is going to have an interesting time against Cincinnati on Monday Night Football. Everyone's talking about how this is going to be a epic matchup for the offenses. I think you're going to also see some epic performances from the defenses.
I agree. Completely. He should be in all lineups. There's no hesitation this week, especially.
Absolutely, 100%.
Why you picked him, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's I believe he's the FantasyPros ACR 21, especially for those shallow leagues who are looking for play there at defensive line. Just throw him in and insert him, and if you have him on your roster already, you're starting him. Period. Set it
and forget it.
That's right.
All right, we're moving on to your DB for Week 16, Jason Pinnock. We're not even going to say he says, fuck it, I know it's level very low. He got 3.5 points. Yeah. What happened?
He just wasn't getting he was playing so close to the line of scrimmage the past couple weeks. And Julian Love had been playing back more in coverage. And then they went back to how it used to be, where Julian Love was playing closer to the line of scrimmage. It's again, different teams, different matchups. You can only go off of what you had been seeing, in terms of recent trends. But he, again, his box snaps had been really, really good. It's just a matter of just a schematic change. These coaches wanted to see Julian Love closer to the line of scrimmage. And when you take away a de facto linebacker whose, success was coming on run stopping, you're kind of screwed at that point.
Points.
But yeah, so he definitely. I was scrolling down the fantasy rankings as far as his points, and I'm like, keep going. I'm like, yeah, he's gone. He's too far gone.
He's unrankable this week.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then we're taking Drew Tranquil versus the Rams this week because
yes,
Chargers are allowing the fifth most rushing yards on the season. 5.3 per carry, meaning Cam Akers should see plenty of volume and attempt to control possession.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is the running game for the Rams is what is going to help keep this Chargers team off the field, this offense off the field. And to be fair, this is going to be the one way that they can make this game slightly competitive. But Tranquil the past couple of weeks, 21 total tackles and 2 sacks. The guy has just been an elite producer all season long. And he, I want to say he's in the top 30 amongst LBs and the FantasyPros ACR. He's a must start. He's a must start. Great upside. And the fact that the Rams are committing more to the running game in recent weeks, just because, Baker Mayfield, when the fourth option at quarterback is who you're rolling with, you got to go with what got you there, or not even what got you there. The only option you have available that you could be slightly consistent with, which is the Rams running game. So look for Drew Tranquil to get plenty of volume and get the tackle upside this week.
And your Week 17, what is this?
Defensive back.
Oh, I have no defensive back. Is Von Bell? No. How come I don't have anything here?
So it's Julian Blackmon versus the New York Giants. And I was mentioning,
okay. Week 16 is not available. Right there.
Yeah. So that is for the lowered expectations. Sorry, I kind of screwed with the show sheet a little bit. That was my bad. So Von Bell is my player that I'm expecting us to get. Yeah, but Julian Blackmon is my play for defensive back this week versus the Giants. I mentioned earlier, or we talked about Kenny Moore being out the past few weeks, and somebody who's been the primary beneficiary has been Julian Blackmon because he's been playing more in the slot lately. And if you look back at the recent games for the New York Giants, Daniel Jones has been targeting Richie James a lot, averaging close to 8.3 targets per game over the past 3 weeks, which is great for getting the tackle volume for Julian Blackmon. In weeks 14 through 16, he's averaged using FantasyPros IDP scoring 13.8 points per game. He's had 13 tackles, a pick, a defensive touchdown. When he's not making splash plays in coverage, his tackle floor has been fantastic. I believe he had nine total tackles last week. And let's face it, this Colts offense isn't going to be on the field a long time. If Monday Night Football was any indication with whoever the quarterback is for Indianapolis, the defense is going to be on the field a lot. Daniel Jones and the Giants have an opportunity to get a playoff clinching win this week. Richie James has been a focal point in this passing game, and if that's the case and they stay true to that, there's no reason why Julian Blackmon does not get great upside for you this week. Definitely gets you double-digit fantasy points. So this is a great matchup for Julian Blackmon this week.
If you have him, you got lucky this week, having him in the championship.
Yeah. I mean,
this should be, like you said, this should be his week.
Yeah, no, definitely should be this week, his week this week. But you had mentioned Von Bell, and so Von Bell is like somebody who I'm actually have a lowered expectation for. Again, box safety, de facto linebacker. But these linebackers are playing so good. You have Jermaine Pratt and you have Logan Wilson, who have just been fantastic. My concern here with Von Bell, though, is while the tackle floor and the fantasy point production had been there this season, this is against traditional offenses where you have, you have your quarterback who hands it off to the running back, and the running back runs, and therefore you have the strong safety coming and helping in run support. They don't really do that a lot with Buffalo. It's basically Josh Allen, and then that's it. So I don't think, with these linebackers, as well as they play in run stopping, that they're going to need Von Bell really to come in, to help, just because I don't think Josh Allen gets past that second level of run defense with these linebackers. And I think the fact that you're just not going to see that much opportunity versus a true, committed running back in Buffalo is going to hurt his value.
Right. And you only have one?
Yeah, no, I know. Sorry. That was the only lowered expectation I have this week. I guess if I could throw in one more, is we saw last week Danielle Hunter just go off against the Giants. He scored 21 points. He was the DL7 last week. He has really turned back into an elite pass rusher. Somebody who I'm kind of disappointed with over the course of the past few weeks has been Zadarius Smith. I would have swore this would have been the pass rushing tandem, so to speak, that people should be paying attention to all season, but it's been kind of disappointing. But it's been great seeing Danielle Hunter get back into the swing of things. On the flip side, Zadarius Smith going against Green Bay. I know it's a revenge game, quote unquote, playing the Packers again, but I still am pro Danielle Hunter in this matchup, and I'm not really feeling Zadarius Smith this week, so I think you can lower your expectations with him as well.
All right. What big defense do you think is going to be coming up for teams this weekend?
I think it's going to be the Jets, to be honest with you, going against Seattle. They've just been playing so well. This offensive line, the interior for the Seattle Seahawks has just been kind of exposed the past few weeks. You have, whether it's the 49ers a couple weeks ago, who have the best defense in all of football, or you have the Chiefs, who gave them a run for their money, or not even a run for the money, they just imposed their will. Now you have the Jets and Quinnen Williams up front, who's just been underrated, under-talked about defensive lineman, just dominant every single week. You have these linebackers with Mosley, and then you have the secondary, who's just been shutting down wide receiving cores. I just feel like this is going to be a Jets week, and as a result, they're gonna take it to Seattle. And I don't know if Geno Smith, he's been declining in play as the defenses have been getting better. Tyler Lockett's not going to be playing again because of a broken hand.
He is out.
Yep. You have Marquise Goodwin, who a lot of people were hoping would do something last week in replacement of Lockett. He put up a donut, so it's not looking too good for Seattle. And so I think the Jets DST is in a good spot. I will say I do feel bad, Rick, and I know this is going to be I do not mean this as a dig, I promise you. But I think there are a lot of people out there, including myself, who are like, the Denver Broncos defense, this is going to be a handset against the Rams. This is going to be a phenomenal matchup. Insert the Broncos into your DST, they got me last week, -5 points, and cost me a shout out to title last week. So nobody could have predicted that. The way the Broncos defense had been playing against the run had been phenomenal. The linebackers Singleton, Josie Jewell had just been playing lights out. There is absolutely no way anybody could have predicted the Rams of all teams would be as dominant as they were against the Broncos. So
it was ridiculous.
Sometimes bad things just happen. I don't know how else to describe it other than that.
Not that we know our season sucked already, but that was just like they gave up. They gave up.
I did like seeing though Jerry Jeudy kind of come to Russell Wilson's defense earlier in the week. I thought that's something that needed to happen. A big star on the team that just needed to, even if it was lying through his teeth and he has no real like that's what needed to happen, to have some type of like restoration of faith happen to a certain degree. And it's going to be interesting what happens to the Broncos with Nathaniel Hackett no longer being there. We'll see. We shall see.
It's going to be better.
Well, I guess that's a fair point.
Not that I don't like him, and it sucks the way it went for him. The injury, just every single thing that could have went wrong for him did. Right. Plus, he was a first-time head coach coming into a quarterback that has his ways, and it just wasn't right. And it showed last week. It finally was not a good Christmas to watch. Like just
on to
watch anymore.
On to 2023.
Yep. We still have the Avalanche and we still have the Nuggets and complaining about.
I mean, you have the defending Stanley Cup champions, so you
back-to-back MVP on the Nuggets.
That's right. Yeah, we can't have everything, Roxanne. I'm sorry. We can't all have an awesome sports town like Denver and dominate in every single sport. We have to give up at least one sport and it sucks. I
don't know if you know, with the Colorado Rockies, they shouldn't even be they should be not even competing in the with real baseball players. They're horrible. Our manager's horrible. Our owner's horrible. Everything is horrible.
I'm so sorry. I forgot that. I totally forgot about that.
But we have the Avalanche and we have the Nuggets. And on to 2023 with the Broncos because there's nothing more to – I don't even know why they would be playing Russ this weekend. Just shut it down.
Yeah, I mean, he's already got concussed already. If he does play, it's because they're like fantasy managers need some upside. I'm like, I don't know how much upside you're going to get. But
who has Russell Wilson still? Nobody.
I don't know.
No fucking way.
I guess if you were in a really big league and you had Ryan Tannehill or Malik Willis and you didn't want to start Dobbs on Thursday, and your only other option was Russell Wilson, maybe. But it sucks. It's unfortunate, but we hope that things get better because if the stars are playing well in the NFL, then everybody's having a good time. And so when that doesn't happen and there's underachievement, people just it sucks. The product is not as good, and people, even if it's fantasy related, it just doesn't work. So hopefully next year they turn it around.
I thought it was crazy how many of the bye week teams in my leagues got knocked out that first week they played.
Oh, wow.
Last week, I mean, I'm just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I came in as the 8th seed and knocked one out, I'm like, that's just not right because of just weird plays,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just all crazy. And I, this week is going to be trying for people, I think, just trying to find players. Like I said, I had Henry and Pollard last night. I'm plugging Kareem Hunt and Cordell Patterson or some shit tomorrow.
Right.
Sunday,
it's
for the championship.
I know we went through some of our picks, but I got a couple other ones if you want me to throw out there for people. So I mentioned Jamin Davis and how he's going to be helping a lot in run support versus the Browns, especially if Cameron Curl's not there. So he's definitely somebody at linebacker you want to start. And going back to the Colts-Giants game, basically Evan Neal is the one of the tackles for the New York Giants. And so whenever I'm looking at defensive linemen to play, I always look at who's playing against Evan Neal each and every week. That's the cheat code right there, because he's not good at protecting the quarterback. Over the past 3 weeks, he's allowed 20 pressures, 6 quarterback hits, 2 sacks to opposing edge rushers. Now, Kwity Paye has been playing a reduced role. He's been splitting time with another player whose name again is escaping me. I apologize; it's late. But even his 18 total tackles, sack, and fumble recovery over the past 3 weeks, while that hasn't been like a huge stat line, I promise you this matchup against Evan Neal is one of those where you're just like, thank God this came on championship weekend, because Kwity Paye should have a fantastic game this week. Going to defensive back, Kyle Duggar. Everybody's kind of like worried about Kyle Duggar lately, but he's been averaging over the past 3 weeks 12.3 points per game. He's top 20 among all safeties and run stopping percentage, according to PFF. Look, the Dolphins, they need this game. I don't think they put the ball in Teddy Bridgewater and they say, go win us the game. It's like, no, we need you to run the ball and help us win this game versus the Patriots. And I think that's what they do. And that's where Duggar helps out, which is in run stopping. And so I think you see a return to form, him getting into that double-digit point performance there. Solid floor for Duggar this week. And again, I keep harping back to this Colts and Giants game, but another player, besides Julian Blackmon at safety, who's been playing really well, is Rodney McLeod. Again, playing really close to the line of scrimmage. He is their in-box defender there, helping against the run. The Giants allow the 12th most fantasy points to the safety position. And again, volume. This Colts offense is not going to be on the field a lot, which means this defense will be on the field a lot. And, all these Colts defenders, we're talking about like Zaire Franklin, we're talking about Buckner, we're talking about Kwity Paye, we talked about Julian Blackmon. Rodney McLeod is just right up there with them because he's going to be close to the plays. And, it should be a very productive IDP game this week with the Colts and the Giants.
Do you think, because it seems like people love to ruin the Giants' chances of getting in the playoffs? I swear, like, every year they're like, if this team loses and we win, and then, then they get mad when it doesn't happen. You're like, well, you can't blame other teams because you didn't get it. So I always think that team that plays them tries really hard to win.
You've seen some competitive teams who've been written off, for the season. Like the Texans gave Kansas City and Dallas a run for their money in back-to-back weeks. I actually think the Texans give the Jaguars a little bit of a run for their money this week. They've been really good against guarding number one wide receivers. Their defensive line has been playing inspired, if that's the best term I can use right there. So I think the Jaguars are actually going to be somewhat. I think like Trevor Lawrence might have a rough game this week. If that's the case, the Jerry Hughes, the Jonathan Grenards of the world could be deal 3 flex options depending on how deep your starting roster is there. Your Jonathan Owens. Your Jalen Petries have definite value there. It's crazy. These teams that should be out of it, they're not giving up, which it's weird, right? Because at this point, if your team is already underperforming, don't you want to get the highest draft pick you can possibly get? So why are you costing yourself?
We say this every year. What are they doing? You're losing spots.
It's like you can't even fail properly. That's how bad it is.
That's what we say, right? Like, come on. Except the Broncos. They're failing perfectly the way the Seattle Seahawks planned this. Holy shit. Top 3 pick?
I mean, is that something to be happy about? I guess is that winning? Is that the way they're losing properly is winning? Exactly. That's
Do you think the Broncos defense decides to come back this week?
It's going to be hard against the Chiefs, right? I mean, the Chiefs went ballistic on them. To be fair, the Broncos, they made it a game until Russell Wilson went out due to a concussion. They were right there. Russell, I think he had like 250 or something at that point, and 3 touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy was going off. Like, you finally saw the connection there. Latavius Murray was having a good game. I just think there's just part of me is like, well, there should be no reason why we don't see something similar to that this week. But I think the Chiefs defense, especially Chris Jones and Nick Bolton and really Willie Gay, have been really stepping up the past few weeks. I just think the defense is starting to get a little bit more amped up for the Chiefs. I think, and I'm concerned there, especially now you have the coaching change. Like, what's their philosophy going to be? Are they going to be more pass heavy? Are they going to be more conservative? If it's crazy to say, but I kind of wish that Hackett was still around, at least for this game, for fantasy purposes, because at least what kind of script you were going to get. You don't know at this point. You don't know how it's going to go. So it's unfortunate this week.
I want them to put up a fight at least and compete like we did 2 weeks ago against them. Right. But I also can see Travis Kelce getting 2, 3, 4 touchdowns. No problem.
Yeah. A player to pay attention to in this is also L'Jarius Sneed, who is kind of like a Swiss Army knife utility player. Like, he'll play corner, he'll play safety, he'll play close to the line of scrimmage, he'll do this and that. And so, it makes you wonder, the Chiefs just really want to take it to the Broncos. And
they do.
Well, if they do, then he's going to be a focal point for this defense. And so IDP managers should be paying attention to his name if you're not already.
Awesome. Anything else?
That's what I got. that's what I got. Heading into this week, obviously you have your big names here that the expression "start your studs." I kind of want to dispel some misconceptions about what that means. It doesn't mean start the name value players, okay, or just the name value players. Like, the players who have been producing for you are the players that you're playing. So if that means, big name linebacker I have on my roster, is somebody who we would consider to be a top, 5 linebacker heading into the league. Heading into the season, or playing Dre Greenlaw, who's just been playing lights out, who you probably drafted as your LB2 or 3. You're playing Dre Greenlaw because he's one of the people who brought you to where you're at this point of the season. You're not relying on name. A linebacker who I think for real football and for fantasy football has not been getting a lot of talk about has been Levante David of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You look at Devin White, everyone's like, the Devin White's been, he's been such a powerhouse linebacker for years. I mean, but Levante David's been the one who's been helping more in run support the past few weeks, and so the tackle upside has been going his way. And I could see a scenario where it's like, I want to keep playing Levante David especially against Carolina, which all they do is run the ball. Devin White, he can obviously help out against the run, but he's been used more in more of the past few weeks in rushing the passer and trying to get the edge because with missing Vita Vea, that defensive line has just not been getting to the quarterback at all. And so they want to get one of their best players to help and assist with that. And that's what frees up Levante David to get the tackle upside. So players like that who have been consistent for you, who've helped you get to this point, those are your studs. I think people need to just remember when you hear that expression, that doesn't necessarily mean start your names or your big names. It means starts the players who've been playing well for you all season.
I agree. This has been the latest and last episode of this season of You Down with IDP. After dark.
Exactly.
Sometimes we do after dark, sometimes we don't.
But, we always have a good time and we always enjoy giving out great information to you all.
Absolutely. Make sure you're following Club Fantasy and Fantasy and Frames. Fantasy and Frames on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Fantasy and Frames. And be sure to check out their website, fantasyandframes.com, for all your IDP needs. And don't forget, they do Dynasty Redraft and DFS. And already, it's that time of year where we're planning our next drafts, right?
Very much.
I can't wait to get picks in order. We're trading our players away. It's what we're doing right now already. So if you need Dynasty advice, you got to go there. You can follow Club Fantasy on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Club Fantasy FFL. The URL is clubfantasyffl.com. We have DFS, player props, sports betting, and our start sit column, confidence plays, begin hitting the site this morning.
Nice. Very nice.
For Nate at Nate Marcum on Twitter, for Joe at Joe_Zollo. We miss you both.
Indeed.
Jorge at Jorge B. Edwards, and of course me at F Queen Roxanne. We thank you guys for joining us tonight and this whole season. We decided to start this podcast just a couple weeks before the season, and I think it went awesome. I think you guys are great, and I think we have a whole season to tweak things and figure it out, and can't wait to be back next year.
I agree. Roxanne, you have been like the most kick-ass host I've ever had on a podcast. And so we're lucky to have such a great group here who love talking defense. And, one of the things, Josh Hudson, the boss here at Club Fantasy, he realized that, IDP is a important part about fantasy football. It's a fun aspect of fantasy football that people should be playing more because, hey, there is a lot of fun to it if you're open to it. And so the fact that he wanted to emphasize and partner with us here at Fantasy and Frames to talk about IDP, we couldn't have been more excited for the opportunity to work together and to collaborate. And I could speak for Nate here. We've loved every minute of it. So we're happy about it, and we're happy about what 2023 can bring.
Can't wait.
Likewise.
Good luck to everybody this weekend. I hope you bring home a championship and don't sit the wrong players like I did last week and quite 4 points because you sat T. Higgins.
Yeah, exactly. Play if you walk away from this show and walk away from this season, play the right players. No pressure. Exactly.
Good luck.
Good luck, folks. Take it easy. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.